Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the final day of Pocket Gamer Connects Digital number 2. We are about to start the first of our morning roundtables. So alongside the track that's running in another track room, the Indies track and the Visions and Values track is running in another track room. Here we've got a selection of roundtables where we're able to dive deeper into a particular subject. So we'll be running that here. Our two sets of roundtables today are about recruitment, and then later on we'll be talking about game publishing. They're both going to be introducing you to some experts for a free-form conversation led by one of our editorial staff, which hopefully will give you some insight into these essential parts of the industry. This has been Careers Week here at Pocket Gamer Connect Digital. We've been encouraging job seekers and recruiters to join us and share their experiences. There's been a jobs board on the site if you are looking to see who's recruiting at the moment. And we've been sharing some tips and advice as it's come along. But this is the first of our dedicated recruitment panels. So what I'm going to do to introduce our experts and to get the conversation going is hand over to Rick Cowley, who is the editor of PocketGamer.biz. Rick, how you doing?
I am doing good. It is far too early, but I am excited to talk about recruitment.
Great. Well, look, I was going to say I'm going to fade into the background and let you folks carry on. We're waiting for a couple more panelists. So hoping to have Oleg and Eamon join us. When they do, I'll bring them into the chat. It's kind of a free-form conversation, so you shouldn't be afraid to get started. I can see the attendees are joining us in the Zoom for this conversation. Folks, if you do have some questions for our panelists and our roundtable conversationalists, I know that they're happy to receive questions. Pop it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, please, and then Rick can curate those and put them to our experts later. So look, with no further ado, Rick, do you want to introduce your experts and have a great chat?
Yes, thank you very much, Dave. I won't reiterate what you said, but thank you all for joining us today and this morning for the Best Practices for World-Class Recruitment Roundtable as part of PocketGamer.biz Roundtable sessions and also PGC Digital number 2, where we are also doing a Careers Week with us. If you're part of the show, there is jobs listings available on the website. We've got this that we're doing, and there's a Discord chat about recruitment and everything. Obviously, it's a difficult time for everyone, and we're hoping we can do something to help everybody find jobs and learn a bit more about the job getting process. As said, I am Rick Cowley, the editor of PocketGamer.biz, and I will now let my panelists introduce themselves. Liz, if you could go first, please.
Hello, hi, I'm Liz Prince. I'm the business manager of a specialist recruitment agency called Amicus. We focus on the games industry and only the games industry and have done for 20 years. I'm also the founder of an initiative called G into Gaming, very focused on diversity in the games industry, especially initially on gender diversity, really trying to make sure that the pipeline of talent that comes through is a lot less male and pale than we have currently. That's me.
That's a good phrase. Celine.
Yes, hi, Celine Pasolahkon, Innosoft, and I'm a CEO there, and we have a game called Hill Crime Racing, and that's our most well-known game so far. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. And Alexi.
Hey, Alexi here. I'm the studio recruiter for Rovio. Before that, 343 on Halo Infinite. So I've seen mobile and console world. And before that, I was a full-time theme park performer. So I know what it takes to break into the industry with no experience whatsoever.
We will hopefully be returning to that at some point.
Yes,
that sounds fascinating. We should hopefully have some more panelists joining us in the future, but we'll get started right now with a nice starter question. Anyone can jump in on this. Where do you find the best places to find new talent? When you're looking for, you've got a job, where do you go to find the people to fill that role?
I can start. So basically, I don't think there's one best place, to be honest. I think for me as a representing Fingersoft always as a CEO, of course, is that I speak openly about our culture and then our values. And I think like then having conversations with the people in different places, I think that's always a kind of nice way to do it. So I think it's more like people find you when they kind of see the fit there also, and they kind of see that they can add some value to the company and all that. So, but of course, there's certain places where you can go and meet people for that, only for that reason.
I think it's definitely for me dependent on the role, on the level of the individual that you're looking for as well. There's obviously a company's website is the first place that they want to advertise and make sure that they're visible. And that, Celine, absolutely plays to what you're saying about showcasing your culture. But I mean, gosh, referrals from your existing people, making sure one of the things that I absolutely love that's happening at the moment a bit more is asking for referrals outside of your normal network. So getting your team to do some really great networking of their own. So rather than potentially, forgive me for saying it like this, but rather than just bringing in somebody who is identical to you, that you actually are incentivized to go and find somebody who is quite different to you to really boost the diversity within an organization. So really rewarding employees for bringing in referrals like that. Lots of great websites, obviously, and I can't go past a recruitment discussion without talking about LinkedIn, surely. That's obviously a great place to talk to people. I never see anything as all about candidates. It's all about people, and we go and we talk to people about what their motivations are and whether they're interested in something to really improve their career and move on to the next step with their career.
I can't disagree with either Celine or Liz, but I will add, I tend to advocate kind of an anti-recruitment strategy. So I think that there's a big reliance on thinking that we're going to solve our problems externally. I mean, that's a Zen thing in general, but it also ties into hiring. If you think about, back in the day, people would stay at a company for 20 years, 30 years, right? That doesn't happen anymore. People are hopping every 2 to 3 years on average in our industry. And I think it was, I'm throwing out the statistics right now, but I think it was only like 28% of talent acquisition people in a survey on LinkedIn said that they would look at internal candidates as a source. So I'm all about that. I think that the order in which you source your candidates should be, look at who you have inside your company already. It's a great morale booster to see people get promoted. It's a great morale booster to see that career map, even unofficially. So go for that first. And then I come from an agency background where it's like headhunt, find people. But now that I'm internal, I really see the value in really taking the applicant seriously too. And anyone who's worked in recruitment knows that very few positions get filled from applicants. Most of the time you're out headhunting people, you are engaging passive talent. And especially if they're really senior people don't apply anyway. They know that they can expect to be reached out to. So that's still going to happen for really senior talent. That's going to happen for leadership talent. They're not going to apply. If they're directly interested in your company, they're going to reach out to somebody they know, or they're going to reach out to the recruiter directly. But I would love to push this narrative that we engage the people who are already interested. We look at applicants. We really take that seriously. And I think that's up to the internal HR and recruiting team to really take care of those people. And then lastly, if you can't fill it internally, you can't fill it through the active people, then reevaluate your job description. Because if you're trying to find that unicorn, maybe that's a role for 2 different people. Maybe there's something that you could be more realistic about. Then and only then would I say engage the passive talent. It could be LinkedIn, it could be referrals. I agree that referrals, there is a risk of being really homogenous if you rely on referrals only. But yeah, that's my order of things.
That actually, yeah, I have to add that I totally agree with that. So we actually open most of the positions first internally and see like how maybe there's internally someone who would like to apply for it. And we have basically the same process that people for to apply for the job. It doesn't matter is it internally or externally, but it has been working really greatly for us also, and it's a nice thing for the people that they actually understand how how the company works and how you can move forward with your plans if you want to switch the jobs or something, and that's actually quite.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say, fairly common practice for most clients of ours, most studios, to 100% look internally first. And you're absolutely right. Why would you not want to bring your talent through, and retain that talent? I think for me, going wider into the market is, I know you mentioned headhunting. It's about those people who are not just waiting to be headhunted, but they are genuinely happy and successful in their role. And they wouldn't even necessarily think about moving at the moment, would they? Because they're being successful, they've got everything they want. But that doesn't mean that what an organization has to offer isn't their absolute dream. And even if that's the dream location, as well as the dream role, the dream team that they want to work beside, we hire very much on these are the people you'll be working with, because in games in particular, people want to work with great people, great talent. So I totally agree with everything you've said. I think there is an absolute process, but I think looking to the external market is enormously healthy for every ecosystem within studios to just keep fresh and keep bringing in those new ideas as well.
Yeah, totally agreeing with that one also, because I think sometimes you have a positions that you just need to have some fresh thinking and new ideas, and it's actually helpful for the whole team to get that. But I think it's a fine balance.
It's a balance, absolutely. Yeah.
If I could just break in, we do have Oleg joining the discussion now.
So sorry so much. We spent 1 hour with Katie before last week to fix all the technical issues, and I'm having them again. I'm terribly sorry. My mic doesn't like Zoom, and I couldn't join from the browser. So now I'm from the phone. But I'm super happy and honored. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Good to see you.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. Oleg, I'm going to jump to you because you've just joined us. So if you could just take some time to introduce yourself, but also we're kind of discussing the best places to find new talent. We've been talking about looking internally first and then moving out. If you have any thoughts on where you find new talent when you're hiring for a role, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I prepared a lot of things. So, so my name is Oleg, and actually I'm working from home, but I prepared this, so I brought the roll-up for you to see. But we're a talent agency based here in Helsinki. We're 4 people, and we are focusing on recruiting game developers to the leading game studios in Finland. And we organize recruitment events, as well as we run anonymous talent boards where games industry professionals can anonymously put the talents, their profiles for the studios to see. And also we do like direct recruitment for the studios who like seek for talent. So 3 things we do. But I'm late and I want to kind of give everyone like a place to speak. So can you hear me? I want to go to the first question, like where to find the new talent.
Yeah, I think maybe if you just brought your camera a little bit closer, that might help with having a bit of trouble hearing you. But if you just bring it a bit closer and speak just a little bit louder, we should be able to catch everything you're saying. Cheers. Sorry?
Fine, now better?
Yeah, that's better, thanks.
Yeah. So I think that from what we've seen, and we've been recruiting many like senior game developers, mainly from the tech industry, but I think that where to find the talent. First of all, I think that the world is moving like digital, and everybody's online. So I think that you should reach out to them in a specific groups where they spend time. Like if you're looking for developers, maybe like GitHub, something more where the interest is to attract like to you. If it's a technical role, if it's an art in the games, I think that it would make sense to look at the like ArtStation or the other groups. Also, I think it's super important that if you're looking for like a developer with some like very hardcore skills, you should reach out to him in his in a language that he understands. So tell a little bit more about the technical challenges you are facing that you think he could help rather than like the salary negotiations or these like relegations and things like that. So I think like channels, super important, and language. So this would be two from my side.
Cool. So there's a lot of interesting sort of topics to pick up here and there. There's a question that I have sort of planned next that I think links onto something that Liz was saying earlier about LinkedIn and using that to communicate with candidates and recruiters. And sort of moving on from that, is it important ahead of like applying for a role for potential candidates to build that relationship with the recruiting manager or recruitment agency? Is that should they like start talking to you about the role before they start applying?
I don't think it's not like an exact science in that way, but I think if you're looking for somebody, thinking about what Lex was saying earlier about leadership people, if you want to build a relationship where someone will effectively be able to career manage with you, so if you think about where you might want to be in 5 to 10 years time, and yeah, but absolutely, we've got relationships with people where we've probably been their career management vehicle for a lot of their games career, you know, as they wanted to look for different opportunities, different challenges, etc. But on a day-to-day basis, if you want to work at a studio and you can connect with lots of people there on LinkedIn or great recruiters at those studios, or the CEO in Celine's case, absolutely. Why would you not want to just get networked with as many people as possible and talk about how enthusiastic you are about their products? It may be that they can't offer you something there and then, but hopefully you'll be in their network and they'll be thinking about you the next time they come to hire. That's what I would think.
Yeah. Anyone else thoughts on making that connection before applying for a job?
I think it helps if you're oh, Celine, you can go.
No, you started. You can go. I can.
All right. I think it helps if you're an applicant to just, I don't mind getting the pings. I mean, maybe there's 100 a day, but you know, I'll get through them. You know, I don't mind the pings, because if you are an applicant, meaning that you are applying for the job, you're throwing your resume into the ethos and hoping something happens. It doesn't hurt to ping, you know, look up keywords, recruiter, talent acquisition, HR, those sorts of things at the company that you're looking at, to ping them. I mean, make it really brief, make it really easy for them to respond. Or it could be, you know, the director, the lead, the manager of your craft, engineering, art, whatever. You can just reach out, say you're interested, say you applied. It's just a nice reminder of, hey, I applied. You're not asking much from them. If it's before applying, you know, like I said, make it really, really easy. I think one of the worst questions you can ask is, do you have any advice for me? Do you have any tips for me? I'm like, well, what am I gonna do with that? You want to know how to make good nachos? You know, well, I made some last night, actually.
Nice.
It's hard to find peppers up here in Finland, I'll tell you that. But like a specific question, like, I don't know, make it super easy. People, I mean, look, we're all here giving advice. People love to give advice, so just make it easy. And then I would say, I'm no longer, you know, working for firms like Liz and Oleg are, but I used to. You know, those recruiters have a different value add for you. They're not representing one company, so they're representing a ton of companies. So now we all know too, there's a lot of like less than honorable recruiters out there. So you know, make sure that they're right for you, but they can show you like a wide array of opportunities.
And I think Lex, we're also probably more open to those sort of wider give me some tips type questions, you know, because we have a lot of links to send people and just help, you know what I mean? We have perhaps bandwidth for that you in your role, I'm sure you're not going to have. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I would say all
top tips.
Yeah, and all of us too. If you know, a good recruiter is going to have a database. So if you reach out to them and they see something cool in your profile, they might, save it for later. So definitely recommend it.
And I think also like totally agreeing with you what you are saying, but my point of view is also like, I think for the applicant it's super important that they actually learn about the company also. I think, because I only believe that you kind of have to understand what you are getting involved with, and are you really like kind of believing in the direction and the values they have. So I think that's always super important, and I think it's not something that you can actually understand that easily, so you kind of need to spend time, and I think in that sense networking is always valuable, and actually think like just saying what you believe in, and then actually hearing the answer what the people who actually work for the company kind of are sharing, and kind of seeing is there a fit, and is that something that you could actually see yourself working for that.
Definitely.
We'll open it up to everybody. What are some common mistakes that recruiters and recruiting managers and people like that make when writing job listings? So you've got your job, you're writing a listing. What are some things, what are some errors, mistakes that you've seen regularly?
I don't like the number of years thing.
Me neither. I'm so glad you said that.
Good. We agree on a lot. It's so arbitrary. It's so arbitrary. There's no need for it. I think I don't want to get too deep here, but a lot of what we do just as humans just is based on because we've seen other people do it and we think it's like some sort of tradition thing. There's no need for it. If you ask a hiring manager, why does this need to be 5 years instead of 4? They won't be able to tell you, right? The only use that I can see it is if it's like in a big corporation. I know at a big corporation I used to work at, we had to put the number of years just for like internal equity legal purposes to say like, this is what it takes to be a, whatever level. But that is, that's one. And then the other thing I would say is just like, being unrealistic with like all the different things. Remember that you're not trying to list out the most perfect ideal person. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get someone interested in applying. So make it as basic as possible. I'm sure Liz, you might be able to speak a little more to this, but I think it's like, I heard some statistic that like in general, men will apply if they feel like they fit 70% of the qualifications, but in general, women will apply if they feel like they meet 90%.
No, it's 100.
Okay,
right? But yeah, so keep your essentials to really essential. And my phrase is drop the desirables, because it's like to the point of, what is this unicorn you are seeking? And yeah, the year's experience is an absolute bugbear of mine, because I always think that a hirer is thinking, well, when I had 3 years experience, I could do this. And you're like, so I need you to have 3 years experience. And I'm like, okay, tell me what it is that you're looking for a competency in, and what do they have to have demonstrated to do this job, So, and then we start to sort of drill down on that instead of this arbitrary thing. I do think sometimes hirers want to link that to pay grade as well, kind of 4 years equals this much money, so sometimes that's a way. Lex is absolutely right on women will only typically apply if they think that they are 100% fit for the job. So when you put lots and lots and lots of barriers in their way, they will just deselect. So again, one of my most hated phrases is this best person for the job. We've got to just hire the best person for the job, not a woman, and not if this and not that. And I'm like, okay, get them in your pipeline and you can choose the best person then. But if you already have them deselecting themselves, they're not even in your pipeline. So how can you choose the best person? So don't put women off, and also don't use gendered language. We've got too many ninjas, we've got too many rock
stars.
Rock stars, yeah.
Yeah.
We did start 2020 trying to eradicate certain words, which anyway, 2020's taken its own turn. But yeah, so gendered language, things that will, again, men won't be put off by any type of language in a job description, but women will. And I believe that will also apply to other underrepresented groups. So if we're looking for a diverse workforce, make the barriers to entry at the job spec mean something, exactly what you need competency in, as opposed to 3 years experience and 3 ship games, type of thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Alexei said also. I think it's really like, if you make a list like all the things you would like the person to have, I don't think there will be anyone applying and the list gets really long. So I think you should see it more like the advertisement, kind of like to get the people to apply and kind of then get the feeling what the job is actually and that kind of thing. So I think I totally believe in that one also. Yeah.
Oleg?
Hey, Oleg, we can't hear you, man.
Oh man.
Oh no. Sorry, Oleg, we've lost audio from you, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nothing's coming through, unfortunately.
Oh.
Oh.
Did that make a difference?
No, unfortunately, we're still not hearing anything from you. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. Oh, wait, hang on. Oleg, we can hear you now, I think. Oh,
I've lost video as well. Thanks for doing that, Lex, because I wasn't sure if you'd all just frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the new. This is like I was talking with my partner the other day. We're like, remember like back when phones, you had to be like, can you hear me? Like cell phones, can you hear me? And then that was a whole slogan in America.
Yeah.
And now it's like video. Hello. 10 years from now, that we're not going to have any of this problem.
No, it's going to be great. 5G, blah blah. The only other thing I was going to say on not necessarily mistakes on a job spec, but I think it's really important to have a statement in there about your openness to candidates as well, and not just a sort of legal thing about commitment to diversity, but a real statement on diversity as well. I think that's a brilliant place to start that process with candidates and applicants.
Oleg, I think we can hear you now if you want to.
Hear me now?
Yeah?
Yeah, you can hear me now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, your video doesn't seem to be working, but we can hear you, so that's the important thing.
I mean, one thing is that also from our side, but I can say from the talent side, perhaps you can have a good. It very much depends. Also, like if the person is technical, if you're trying to solve a technical thing, I would like to see that maybe because we get a lot of questions. That's for sure.
No, I'm sorry, Oleg. I'm struggling to hear you again. If you could bring your device closer to you and again speak up just a little bit louder. I think when you go a little bit quiet, it's harder to hear you, unfortunately.
Can you hear me like this?
Yes.
I might suggest maybe if just turn your video off and put your phone up here, because I think the mic is having trouble registering you, because so if you just talk like you're on the phone, that might be
just
better.
hold on a second.
Thank you to all the attendees for sticking with us, by the way. We
all get IT credit after this. Yeah. One thing I want to say while we're waiting for Oleg on the job descriptions
so I put the camera off. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Yeah.
It's like, sorry again. I think that it's important to put a little bit specific, maybe something about the technical role, if you're recruiting especially for the technical role. But also one thing back to the companies that I would say that you also miss out a lot of good candidates who apply to you. And I think it's important that you give them the feedback on time. As a recruiters, for instance, we always give the feedback them at least 5 days. But with the companies, I think also the problem, and I think it's not only the job description, but the whole like experience is that you can send the application or they can send the application and never hear back. I think that's like the mistake that I think many also recruiters do.
Yeah. Yeah, feedback is super important. But I would say about the job description too is it's not just for applicants. It's also, we were talking about for really senior people and leadership people. Sometimes they ask, do you have a job description? So think about it as it's a sales pitch. That's what it is. It's not about, we need you to impress us. It could be, this is what you're going to do, and this is what we're going to give you. And if you can somehow wordsmith the requirements as this is what you get to do, then it just looks a lot better for applicants and the people that you're.
Absolutely. I mean, totally agree. So.
And of course, you are looking people who can fit the company and not just get through the application process. So I think like in the long term, they have to get the right picture, like who the company really is and that kind of thing. So as clear as you can be about those, I think the better it is.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to take a question from the audience just because there's been a couple sat here that I want to talk about, and this kind of leads into another question that I had. So I'm afraid I'm not going to make an attempt at this person's name because it's too early in the morning and I don't want to offend anybody. But one of the attendees asks, is remote working in game development here to stay, or will it be a temporary fix during the pandemic? And also, do you see more studios opening up to 100% remote working for disciplines other than engineering and support? So kind of a big question there, two different parts, but.
Yeah, that's tricky. Yeah. I'll go after. I feel like I've been talking the first for a while.
Yes, Salim, sorry.
Yeah, of course I can talk about how we do it, and we have been always supporting remote work a lot anyways in our company. So I think it's kind of quite deep in our culture already. So it wasn't that big process for us anyways, but I think definitely there's so many opinions. Like some people hate it, some people are loving it. So I think it depends how you live and where you live and that kind of things. But I think definitely, I think people are a little bit more open to actually do it a little bit more even. And also I think now as a company, we are better with all the tools, like all the meetings can be arranged really because you have to do it so many months already. So you kind of learn how to do it right way, because I think it's so, like when you do it time to time, it's different, but when you actually keep doing it for months, it's of course you kind of learn a little bit few things. But I don't know, is it more like people who has a flu, they think like I will really change my habits now and be all healthy, and then they forget that next day. I don't know, maybe the same thing is happening here, but at least I hear that many companies are talking that they will definitely add more remote work routines to their companies, but I think we will see what happens. And of course the whole situation with the pandemic, who knows if there's a second wave or something coming, and we kind of have to redo the whole thing, or there's so many open questions which we don't know yet. So
I think that's really pertinent, isn't it? I'm not quite sure whether we're at the point yet where it's the right time to make those big decisions. We've absolutely been thrust into remote working because of the pandemic. I can tell you categorically a lot of our studio clients were not set up for remote working, and indeed a lot would absolutely have hated the fact that we've gone into what we've gone into. Has that changed their opinions? I would guess, and from hearsay, I would say yes, because it's worked. Do they absolutely want that for everybody for all time? I don't think so. My honest opinion today would be that they would look for a blended solution going forward. There are absolutely some people who, if I think about London, and I don't live in London, I live in the northwest of the UK, but if I think about those in London traveling on public transport, squashed, doing maybe 2-hour commutes, so that sort of thing, and all of a sudden they're at home, they're at their desk, they're probably more productive, even if they're homeschooling and all of the things that the things that people have had to cope with over the last few months. I would say that a lot of people would say, do you know what? I'm going to move further outside of London, get a better house, a better standard of living, probably a garden, and I'd rather do that and work at home than commute into London or live much more centrally every day. So I think that employees will probably start to make those discussions will absolutely start happening. But do I think we know today? God, no. I think we know very little still today. I think into next year, those things will start to come out. Yeah. Personally, and I will be here for months.
I think like what really has changed from our side is the whole recruitment. Like I think for us, it has been always important to actually also meet the people and all that physically. So I think that has been really something that we have needing to rethink actually. So that has been some learnings there. But I totally agree. And I think there's also will be really interesting times when we actually get back to office and what kind of consequences and things there is coming then, I'm pretty sure there's different challenges then, like people actually recovering from the whole pandemic and all that. So
yeah, I think there's this is all ideal. This is all like the ideal that we're having about remote work. But there's, and I totally agree. Like actually, before I came to Rovio, I negotiated a full-time remote contract at Microsoft because actually I work better remote because of my work. I have to do a bunch of calls. I have to have privacy. I have to focus. It works better for me. And then I can travel and meet people in person. Well, before I could do that. I get it. And especially in California, where I come from, the barrier, the cost barrier is absurd. The commutes are absurd, like Liz was saying about London, and that's another reason why I moved here, and it's another one of the sells I have for international candidates to come to Finland. It's like you always have a seat on the metro. There's no, right? You're not going to be rushed. You're not going to be rushed. But now that we're seeing that remote, a lot of people are more productive in a remote environment. Companies are thinking about that. But here's the big but, BUT. Is that there are a ton of legalities and tax issues and complexities when you're employing somebody who is not in the same country as the jurisdiction of your company. So I think I saw Twitter said, hey, all of our employees can work remotely forever now. Great, you're Twitter. You have a huge HR and legal department and you have offices all over the world. You could do that. But if you're a smaller studio, I'm internal HR. We have one person who works on relocation for the whole company, and she can't do that for everybody. So I'd say, remote is cool, but when it comes to legalities, it's going to be harder for some smaller studios.
I can add here a little bit also from our side. I actually, about 10 years ago, I lived in London and worked in Fleet in Nokia. So 1 hour, I think, on the train, that was quite an experience back and forth. But that time it was not possible. It's a corporate. I worked for a corporation. So like remote would have been like excellent. I tell you our story. We're a company, we're about 5 people and we gave up the office. So we were already thinking from the very beginning when we started this business, we were thinking like automating a lot of processes inside of the company and using different SAS solutions. So for us, it was actually easy. And I tell you that we now as a team had a discussion actually this Monday, if we want to go back to the office, and everyone said no, including myself. And before that, I was totally against, I was totally getting everybody to the office and having that discussions and meetings and things like that. But now actually I actually learned so much also how to transform the company. So we were ready. So for us, it was actually like a good proof of concept that as a company, we actually work much better remotely. That's it. We're a good example. Same like a company with the processes and things like that.
There are definitely so many layers, aren't there, to offering remote working, you know, technology being huge, absolutely. But I think also people have to have certain characteristics and potentially in recruitment, certainly certain levels of experience as well to be able to, making decisions without supervision is one of those, it's a skill set. And just thinking about what you were saying, Celine, about recruiting, if you are going to recruit people who are also going to work remotely from their management team, potentially, you not only need to check that they're the right people and that they like you and they share your values, but also that they have those extra characteristics to be able to be a remote worker, as well as the setup at home that protects their mental health from working in isolation, etc., etc. So there's so many more layers to it, and that's why, I saw the Twitter thing as well, and that's why I say I think it's too soon to make those big proclamations of we're all doing this, and you're like, oh, what have you thought about everybody? You know, I think the time will come and the blend will come out of it, I think.
This also leads into something I wanted to ask as well, sort of about remote working, is given that so many companies are moving to remote working and thinking about it in the future, does prior remote working experience now factor into like hiring decisions? Like if a candidate comes to you and says, oh, I've been working remotely for 3 years, is that now beneficial to them now that we've started doing this as a general workplace?
Depends how good they've been for 3 years, doesn't it? Is that really bad? I've been working remote for 3 years and I'm really bad at my job.
Yeah, I've seen it the opposite actually. Before these uncertain times, I have seen hiring managers that from a variety of companies that I've worked with be like, oh, they've worked only remote. Well, then they don't know how to like bond with the team. They don't know how to like. I'm like, they're humans, like they can. And I think Liz, you're right on. I had never actually thought about that, of like being a remote worker as having a skill set that's a specific skill set, and there's a level of emotional intelligence that needs. I don't have the answer to it, but I think that's super interesting that could be an asset in the future.
I definitely think there are people who work brilliantly remotely. Someone in the chat just said they were working at home for 3 years, and that obviously means they're doing their job well for 3 years. That's it. But I think self-motivation, organization, discipline, great communication, and those decision-making processes, the sharing of values with the organization, that's the extra layer of things that I think you'd be looking for. And I honestly don't believe it's for everybody. I've got one of my team who wants to write a blog on why I love the office, and there is absolutely argument for working together and learning from one another in an office environment, which is why I don't think it's ever just going to be one or the other.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think there's like people life situations, those changes, like something you might get to children or something, so you never know what happens. So I think that changes a lot, and it might change your lifestyle also. And then I think also it depends about the whole team what you're working in, because like if all the other people from the team are working from the office, you might be left out if you're the only one who's working remotely. So I think I totally agree that I don't think there's one right answer for that. And it depends on your personality type also. Like, I mean, like some people just like that and some don't. And I don't think there's anything right or wrong for that, because some people are more social than others. And that's not something you can say is that right or wrong. But like, I think it's all personal decision that I would totally prefer myself that I would like to support it if it works for the person, but then like I would not maybe say that you definitely need to do it. Of course, now we are in a place that everybody basically has to work remotely because there's no option. But I think when we are in a more normal situation again.
Yeah. Cool. I'm just going to quickly
like from the agent's side, I'm going to be very short. I totally.
That's okay. Yeah.
Prior work remote experience is not required. I really feel that we are recruiting all the time. So as a company or the candidate, you just need to make sure that the candidate is capable of doing the work independently. That's it. Like if you feel after like the interviews that candidate is capable of doing the work independently, that's it. So he's settled for the work remote. He's going to find the time. If he's self-organized, there's a space and everything. So I feel that's like. So from my short answer is no. Like we're all grown ups, right? The job needs to be done, and then if you let this candidate do the job whenever it's more like good for him, it doesn't matter. Like he can put the hours a little bit later, doesn't matter. So that's same with us. As long as the person is like capable of doing that. That's it. So our answer is like no, not required.
Cool. I'm going to move over to audience questions now. We're coming up against time, so I want to get through these as possible. I do have lots of other questions that I would love to talk about, but obviously want to hear from the audience. We've got an anonymous attendee. So we're kind of more focused on like recruitment and best practices but this is a person looking on sort of the job seeker side. So we do have another roundtable later in the day about that, but in case this person's going to miss it, I will ask this. Is there any specific advice you can offer to job seekers at this challenging time? With no chances to meet face-to-face at events or job fairs, how can people stand out and also make it easy for recruiters? The air quotes were in the question as well. I didn't just add them myself.
Yeah, I think that's what I think I said that. So I'll go. So the number one thing that you gotta realize when you're job seeking is it's not you yes or no, it's you versus every other option under the sun. And that doesn't just mean all the other candidates who are interested, but like the internal stuff that I was talking about, or not having the role open at all. It's very hard to hire. And companies are taking a risk to hire anybody. So what you need to do to get a chance to be seen and be taken seriously is you need to be seen as little of a risk as possible. So what I tell people who are job seeking is make it easy for a recruiter to give you what you want. Make it easy for them to sell you to the hiring managers, because inevitably they're just a gatekeeper, they're a curator. They're not the final decision maker. And what I tell people is if you are interested in a company or a project, reach out to find whoever it is. And you only need to say two things. Say why you are specifically interested in it, something that you saw in particular, keep it about them. And then just say one specific thing, why you specifically would be an asset, right? Try to predict what it is they're working on. Read articles about them, show that you're proactive, show that you've done your research, because then it's like, hey, even though this person maybe doesn't have the 3.7 years of experience that we're after, it's easy for me to sell you when I can say, look, they played all our games. They read all these articles. They made a prediction about where we're going. They said that they have this skill set. And even when I wasn't able to get someone a job, if they were really proactive about that and they made it easy and they had a brief reach out to me, then sometimes I'm able to at least arrange calls for people, arrange meetings. And now you have a connection with somebody in a company that you really like, someone that's in your craft. So hopefully that could be helpful.
There's definitely just more general as well. Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, look for places where games people gather online, because you're absolutely right. Obviously, we can't go meet at different conferences at the moment, and probably not for a few months ahead. So make sure that you are where they are, at least online, and join the conversation, ask questions, introduce yourself, do things that kind of make you visible generally, and then do some really specific things around the companies that you're interested in.
Yeah, can I also add from our side, that I think, yes, LinkedIn, I totally believe in that. So on the practical level, I would say yes. Also, can I do a little bit of a sales pitch? Because we run the anonymous talent board. That's something we've been doing and been working, nominated by PG for it. So we're offering candidates to create anonymous profile and put it on the talent board, so that the companies can come and see if the person fits or something like that. It's not only us. There's many other talent board. So one way you could also try different things. There's very traditional and practical advice. Also, if you are just interested about the opportunities, you don't know yet the company or a set of companies, then you should talk to recruitment agencies, because they usually have might have an offering. But if you're interested about a specific company and really want to get to them, so I would suggest you talk to them directly, reach out to them to the LinkedIn, Facebook group, send them the application. If that is a company that you really want to get in, you will get in there faster if you just you will get there if you want to, right? If you really want it, you will find a way. But if you're just not sure and you are bored and just want to kind of do something else, but you don't know what, so then talk to the recruiters, because then you can see a portfolio. There could be a few jobs open that you could select. So that would be my sort of advice on the practical level.
Cool. I do have another question from the audience that I'd like to get on to. Hopefully they're still here and can get this advice. So somebody asking that there's somebody saying they're in a transitionary period of their career path and they want to sort of move into the games industry. They're an experienced UX and UI visual product designer, but they don't have any background in programming. Is that going to be critical in the recruitment side of things? Is that going to work against them, or does it just not really matter if it's a design sort of role?
I tell you, on the practical level, we actually have an interesting trend from the talent's perspective. We actually see people that, now everybody's a little bit calmer with this corona, so and hopefully it's going to go away fast. But many talents who've been working in the corporation have 10 years of experience in AWS and cloud, but they never worked in games, for instance. But they would like to come to the industry because it's so attractive. It's and also so cool kind of a way. And they want to see their results faster, on the market and things like that, what they're working on. So we have actually talents that are joining, and those talents are actually interested to do that career change and give it a try, and actually go down a little bit in terms of if they're senior, so they understand that they maybe start with a middle position or something like that and grow kind of away fast. So we see this trend all the time, and that's why when we interview the candidates, we usually ask them what your total years of experience in technology, and what's your years of experience in the creative industry, because we also get companies with the VR, AR coming using the same stack kind of way. So from that perspective, I think that there's plenty of opportunities, because the technical challenges and things that if you're a designer, it's going to be probably something you would need to have a dive. You should probably maybe join as a junior or something like that for the beginning to learn it, but you will grow fast if that inspires you. But that's if I answered it.
Cool. Any other thoughts?
From my perspective, the programming piece isn't a missing link. I think a lot of the work that we try to do with our clients is to look for opportunities to bring people in from outside of the industry where we can, because that does absolutely help with diversity as well. And I can think of one client who's looking for UX UI right now in the West Midlands of the UK, who has 100% said they don't need to be from the games industry. And yeah, there's definitely opportunities that they need to do the networking that we've talked about, getting in touch with recruiters or companies directly who they'd like to talk to, and do what Lex said earlier, which is highlight where the capabilities are that they can bring, and it doesn't really matter then what industry they were in previously, as long as that experience translates into the role that we're looking for. Happy to hear from you if you want to drop me a note, by the way, if that person wants to drop me a note.
Yeah. Okay, great. I think that's going to be everything from us. I know we've sort of overran to compensate for some technical issues, so thank you all for sticking with us. And thank you for the panelists for joining me this morning. Dave, I'm sure, has some more stuff to discuss about the rest of the day, so I'll pass back to Dave.
Thanks, Rick, and thanks to all the panel, Celine, Liz, Alexi, Oleg. I'm going to give you a round of applause. You'll have to imagine it coming from the rest of the audience. I really appreciate that and your insight. Thank you very much for being part of it.
Can I still add something before?
Of course, go for it, Oleg. Yeah.
Can I do a little pitch? So we're actually going to organize the first games recruitment event in September. So Helsinki, like a game shop fair in September, so check it out. Game shop fair, it's exactly where the opportunities to find talents. And also we launched a new talent board, Game Dev Talents, which allows talent to register and put up the anonymous profiles and get contacted by companies directly. And if they're interested, they're sharing the profiles and having a discussion with the companies. And if they're not interested, they're just ignoring the messages from the company. So this is also something new and cool that we're launching actually in Finland.
Great.
So, cool.
That sounds good. Thank you very much, Oleg. That sounds very interesting. And yeah, people should watch out for that. I'm sure we'll cover it on PocketGamer.biz. Well, I should also say to those people who've found this roundtable useful, we have another roundtable this afternoon on recruitment as part of our Careers Week activities. That takes place around 4 o'clock. But between then and now, we have a number of Careers Week activities running today. I just want to let everyone know that today we have a careers recruiter job seeker chat session running on our Discord group. That will be live between 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock BST. Put that in context, if you're outside the UK, that starts in an hour's time. You'll need to be registered with us here at Pocket Gamer Connects Digital as a job seeker or a recruiter to access that channel on Discord, but please do drop in there. We're also going to have some experts from Amicus drop in for a careers Q&A session in Discord from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock BST. That's in 2 hours' time. And that's in the same channel on Discord. If you need to find that Discord channel, say you do need to be registered as a job seeker or a recruiter, but the Discord link is in Meet to Match. You can just jump into the community from there. There's a button in your dashboard that will take you to Discord. So with that, I just want to say thanks again to everyone. Thanks to Rick for hosting and to your fantastic panel, Celine, Liz, Alexi, and Oleg. Sorry we didn't get to hear from Eamon, but we'll catch up with him another time, I'm sure. And folks, if you did want to rewatch that because you joined late or you missed some of it because of the technical difficulties half an hour ago, we'll be making the recording of this available through our usual channels later so you can catch up. But again, thank you very much, everyone. See you at the next panel.
Thank you very much.